Okay, for me to start?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, right, welcome to the licensing subcommittee. As I said before, so for the second time now, we're not expecting a fire drill. If we do hear the alarm sounds, the exits are there, and there. We will direct you of which way to go. And that is all I want to say about that, except the meeting is being recorded. It will then be uploaded onto YouTube, but when we go into confidential session, anybody who is not a member of this committee will be removed from the online process, and we will take things on from there. Correct, Joe? Happy with that?
Yes.
Right, the first thing we have to do is to appoint a chair of the subcommittee. And Martin,
Chair, I'd like to, Deputy Chair, I'd like to appoint you, Councillor Locke, as Chair of this meeting. Thank you.
Tony,
That's fine. Happy.
can you second that then?
Yeah, happy to second that one.
Thank you, just for the record. Thank you. All right, Joe? Right, apologies for absence. Is there any apologies that which?
There are apologies, Chair.
None whatsoever which are given. Good, excellent. Declarations of interest from elected members. I don't have any.
Done.
Tony?
Nope.
No, lovely, thank you very much. Item 4, minutes that previously of the subcommittee. Are we happy to, we've dealt with those previously?
I just need to get members to propose and second that they're happy for you
Yeah.
to also agree the minutes following this meeting.
Yeah, following this meeting,
So,
yeah. And I will second this, Mark's proposing it, I'll second it. Is that good enough?
And if I can get Tony to say this, so you're actually the chair of the meeting.
Okay,
Please get him to second it, it's fine.
trouble is, they're not, with him not being present in the room and not see.
I think, Tony, you happy to second Martin's proposal?
Yes.
Right, that's lovely, that's item 4 dealt with. Right, moving swiftly on to item 5, is to consider the licensing applications under the Licensing Act 2003. I would like to introduce firstly, members of the subcommittee. As you probably gather, see with the nameplates here, I will be chairing this subcommittee. I'm Councillor Tony Locke and I represent the Oldham East. On my left, I have
Martin Lovell, representing Shepton Mallet.
and online we have,
Councillor Tony Robbins, I represent Mendip Hills.
thank you very much, Tony. Now, I have to ask, are all members present, including yourselves? Mr. Firth, and I believe it was Kim, wasn't it? I did hear from this supervisor. Are you happy with the, to confirm whether you understand the procedures that we are going to be following today? You've had all the paperwork and everything else associated with the application?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's lovely. Right. Happy with that? The preliminary still? Thank you. Right. I will now introduce the licensing officer to present their report and over to you.
Thank you. An application was received to vary the existing premises licence for the Virginia Ash at Henchbridge, and representations have been received in relation to that application, and that's the purpose of this meeting, to discuss those representations and to determine the application. The application is to add a paddock to the licence, and the paddock is proposed to be used for no more than 12 events per year. The activities in the paddock are proposed to be live and recorded music and the standby retail of alcohol, and the terminal time for these activities is proposed to be 11 PM. The application can be seen from page 15 in the agenda pack, and the plan of the paddock that's proposed to be used. As the premises is currently licensed, the premises licences shown from page 37 in the agenda pack, and the timings, activities and proposed measures shown in the application relate to the paddock only and aren't intended to replace the existing timings and activities shown on the premises licence. 3 representations were received from other persons, so members of the public, and they have raised concerns in relation to noise and have specifically mentioned experiences from an event held in summer where music was described as extremely loud and could be heard in homes even with windows closed. Concerns have been raised about the frequency of the events, especially as it is anticipated that many could be held in the summer where people may need to have their windows open to help ventilation. The representations can be seen from page 45 in the agenda, and maps showing the approximate distance from the premises to the streets where the persons live is shown on page 47. I would also like to just remind the committee that there is an exemption in place for live and recorded music on premises which are licensed for the sale of alcohol between the hours of 8 AM and 11 PM for an audience of up to 500 people. So in effect, if the paddock is included as part of the premises licence, then that area would automatically benefit from an exemption, which would allow live and recorded music to be played between 8 AM and 11 PM for an audience of up to 500 people. However, as it seems that the paddock is capable of accommodating more than 500 people, then it's probably right that the applicant has applied to have this on there because the exemption wouldn't cover them for more than 500 people being in that area of the premises at any one time, or being on the entire premises at any one time. Even though an exemption may apply, other noise legislation such as the Environmental Protection Act will still continue to apply to the premises. So it doesn't exempt them from the other, requirements under other legislation. Furthermore, the police have agreed conditions with the applicant in relation to what's been proposed, and these conditions can be seen on page 49 in the agenda pack. And finally, we have received evidence that the notices of application were on display at the premises and advertised in local news publication, so they've complied with the advertising requirements for the application. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Rachel. Just, I would just kick off just quickly with something you just said. You said the police, there is no objection from the police whatsoever, and they've spoken with the applicant and they are satisfied from their point of view. Is that?
That's correct, yes. So as I understand it, the police spoke to the applicant during the consultation period and agreed conditions with them. And there aren't any sort of other there's no outstanding representations. So what they've agreed with the applicant is they're happy with, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Tony, I will come to you first online. Is there anything you specifically want to ask Rachel at this moment in time? And I appreciate you may want to come back in after Martin's said anything that he wishes to say, or I may wish to add as we move forward. Over to you.
You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. No, Chair, I have nothing to add at this present time.
Thank you, Tony. Martin, any questions you have for the officer?
What are the restrictions on the 12 events? I mean, does notice have to be given? What is the community involvement ahead of that as in terms of what we're giving in license terms to facilitate the events taking place?
In terms of prior notification, the only thing that I'm aware of is in the conditions that were agreed with the police, and that is surrounding their requirement to produce an event management plan. But then that only says that it has to be produced 14 days prior to the event taking place and shall be produced if requested by relevant authorities. So in terms of there's no sort of like, they wouldn't have to kind of like notify the licensing authority, the police or all local residents. There isn't a condition which would cover that, just the requirement to write an event management plan and have that available if requested to produce it.
Does somebody raising representation therefore have a cause for concern? The fact that no such notice has been given. And that the event could be landed at, well, whatever it's called, or landed relatively out of the blue. Is there anything that they might wish to, could reasonably be concerned about? Thank you.
I think that I can understand the lack of prior notification to residents or that kind of thing could be a concern for local residents. That hasn't specifically been mentioned in the representations that have been received. It's the obviously more primarily it's the concern to do with like the noise at the event. So rather than specifically the lack of notification, but I appreciate that could be a concern because, you know, maybe if people are aware of events taking place, then that is, you know, that can sometimes help, but hasn't been specifically mentioned.
Okay, for that,
You're
make
okay for a minute. Just one thing I want to ask her. There was an event put on which has been mentioned in our paperwork. And I believe that the applicants did not comply with the regulations. Can you just highlight the committee on that side of it? Was that through, and I'm not being disrespectful, lack of knowledge of what was required, or was it other reasons? If you could just throw a little bit of light on that before I go back to Tony and then maybe move on to the applicant.
Of course, yes. Yes, so we became licensing, we received complaints about an event which is held over the summer, and from investigation of that, obviously our understanding is that there wasn't any authorisation in place for licence for activities at that event. And I understand the issue was that there was a lack of understanding about how far the premises licence extended. So I think the belief was from the applicant's side that was already part of their premises licence. And when it was brought to their attention that it wasn't, there obviously these applications and then submitted to, you know, to add on and correct that situation.
Okay. Well, I haven't got any more questions on this at this moment in time. Have you anything else you would like to ask Tony?
No, I'm all good. Thank you, Tony.
Good at the moment. Martin, yourself?
It's just I should need some satisfaction that mitigation is in place, whether the thing is authorised or whether it's.
Yeah, I think we will come on to that.
Thank you.
Come on to that later on. I mean, firstly, before I do move on, I just want to ask the applicants, have they a question? Because, you know, all parties may ask a question of the licensing officer. Is there anything we want to ask of the licensing officer at this moment in time, bearing in mind that you will get further chances?
Not particularly this time, it seems, yeah, I mean,
You can, sorry, you concur with what the licensing officer has said at this moment in time. That's fine. That's fine. Right. What I'm going to do now then, I'm going to invite you, sir, to Mr. Firth.
it's brilliant, actually, yeah.
Sorry, Frith, apologies. And to introduce yourself and to present your case and call any witnesses that you may. I see you have a young lady by the side of you. I take it she will be probably speaking as well when we you get further in. So over to you, sir.
So I'm Tony Frith. I've held the premises licence on the Virginia Ash for almost 6 years in January. And during that time. So, I mean, a history of me, I've been in the pub industry for 25 years. I've been a consultant and director for several breweries, dealt with licensed premises up and down the country during that time. I have some prior knowledge of the Virginia Ash. It fell under my control in the late 90s and around 2007 and 8 as well. And the paddock at that time was part of the pub. It was used for various different things. It sort of fell into disrepair, stopped being used. And at the time, of course, you know, the license makes us responsible for the whole of the licensed premises for all activities. And so the assumption was that the build was still part of the licensed premises and that the license activities could happen in there. That was the oversight, and that's why we didn't make an application. When that was brought to our attention, we made the application immediately, and we had an upcoming event, so we applied for a temporary license and did everything we should to make sure that we were covered for that. During the 6 years I've been there, we've had so the pub runs properly. It's a family pub that provides food, drink, and is popular in the area. It's a busy pub. We have held events, you know, parties for New Year. We've had car meetings in the car park, and we've and lately pubs are struggling now, and we've realised that we need to do more to sort of engage with the community and make more things available. And we've been encouraged to do so by a lot of the locals. So we have a big Facebook following, social media, where people have asked things to go ahead, and we've done that. And so now we make the license application to make sure that we're doing everything according to the law. We haven't had any involvement with the police. We don't get trouble in the pub. It's well run. I have a manager now, Kim, who's passed the licensing thing, and she's the premises supervisor, younger than me, and more go ahead with events and connecting to the community than me. I'm a dinosaur that only just can use my phone, so that's where we are with that. We get lots and lots of confidence about the things we do. I think it's fair to say that the first event we had music on, and we discussed it with the person doing the music, that we actually even thought it was maybe too loud. We sort of had a word with him after the event and said we can't, you know, we want a certain level. We try to not upset the community. Car events, the same thing. You know, we try to make sure we're putting on things that are safe and enjoyable for people. So that's sort of where we are. I think it's like anything else. So we've got the bar, we've got the capability of doing the events. We've put a plan together. I think we've been fair on the application. We haven't applied for anything that would be terribly upsetting. The party that they complained about was on the bank holiday weekend on the Saturday. The next one was Halloween. We didn't get any complaints of that. So we got a stream of phone calls from the same person on the 80th night. And the same person came into the pub quite aggressive, telling me that I needed to go and turn the music off, with some other words thrown in that weren't too pleasant. And then and then we got to the end of that night, and then I guess they've made representations because they don't want us to have the license. The Halloween party, as I say, we had no no problems at all, although the same person that was causing us problems on the 80 party did come flying into the car park on the quad high speed
During the family party when there was young children up there as well.
and then glared over the fence. The suggestion was that we had a children's Halloween party at lunchtime and an adult one in the evening, and that what would stop the children being sort of left behind in the bill, which we found a little bit odd, because one of the events finished at 3 or 4, and the other one started at
7:30.
7:30. And there was nobody left behind. So we thought we'd done everything correctly on that.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Now is the time for your colleague, your witness, Tim. Do you want to add anything? Introduce yourself and to everybody here and the councillor online, and just state what your role is. And would you like to add anything to what Mr. Frith has said?
Yeah, so I'm Kimberly Stevens. I'm the DPS for the Virginia Ash. So I don't know what to say. So yeah, I agree with everything Damien said. We were under the assumption that the paddock was covered, otherwise I wouldn't have planned the event. When we were planning the Halloween party, Tony applied for the temporary entertainment license, which was then put in place. We had a registered SIA company from Bristol. They came down, they were checking IDs on everyone that came in. They were given a wristband when they handed in their tickets. All of the events, well, the 2 events we have done, they've been advertised inside the pub on our Facebook page and also inside the village shop in the entrance. The summer one was advertised for 3 months and the October one was advertised for 2. We sell tickets, so we know how many people are coming. We never go over the 80s night was 100 tickets. For Halloween, we sold 90. We have 2 SIA licensed officers on the gate with torches and their license. That's about it.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
no, that's fine, but you can confirm that, you can confirm with your colleague there and what have you, and that you are the premise license. Oh, that's fine. What I'm gonna do before I throw it open to councillors, members of the committee to ask, is there anything that officers present wish to ask first? Because there's no responsible authorities here, the police or anything, but is there anything our licensing officer and legal officer may wish to ask you before I go to councillors?
No, thank you.
You're satisfied? You're satisfied with the explanation of the event which occurred during the year, and that's fine, that's fine. Right. It's now members' turn to ask questions. This time I'll go to you first, Martin. Have you got any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, just confirming that, so you are actually advertising the events.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, they get advertised, and my children go to the local school, so I talk to a lot of the people in the village. I advertise it myself, they advertise it for me, so it gets shared all through Facebook. And then all through the village.
And each event will be,
Yeah, each event, yeah.
You happy with that? Right. Tony, can you hear me all right? Is
I
there
can,
anything-
yes.
Anything you wish to ask the applicants?
I don't have, there's nothing at this point I need to ask. Martin just covered something that I was going to mention. So no, at this present time, I have nothing to add.
That's fine. I mean, that's fine, excellent. I mean, all that I just want to just sort of say at this moment is that irrespective of what happened with the event early on in the year, you will be made aware of the things which must be done in the future if you do get this licence, and you have spoken to the police, and the police are perfectly satisfied, obviously with their lack of attendance here today, and it's just a matter for members to carry on through our process here and reach our conclusions. But my next duty would have been to invite the responsible officers, the police, but as the police aren't here, their absence tells a story on that sort of subject. There's no other persons present here who can present their case. It's sort of noticeable that the objectors, do not want their names mentioned, which is fair enough, and have not wanted to attend this meeting to lay their case out. So I cannot do anything about that, except to say that members. We can't go through the flow. I cannot go through quite a few of my procedures here. I can't ask the responsible authorities to sum up, but I can ask our other persons here, councillors, to sum up, which they, if they wish to do so at this moment in time, bearing in mind that we will make our decision and the applicant will be informed of that as before we get to the end of this procedure this morning. I've not got anything else I want to ask the applicants at this moment in time. I think when we reach our conclusion, that anything that we want addressing can be included within that conclusion. But I'm just going to ask the applicant if they are to invite them to sum up if they wish, or are they happy with what they have said to us in light of their case, which their application, which they have put forward. And
I think as a company and as individuals, there's a lot of care and effort goes into any event or anything that we do. As a business, we show concern for the community, and we're good at following the rules and making sure everybody's kept safe. We're not a club that's known for trouble or disruption, and we do try to the community. I think it's fair to say that the Halloween event, there were, my understanding is that there were no complaints about that at all. And of course, it was licensed because we applied for a temporary license. I don't see there would be any problems going forward. If the people that had objected had come here and said that maybe we could have answered some of their questions. I mean, I'm sure they all live very close to us and would have been capable of coming in and speaking to us. We're all quite approachable as well, not aggressive or angry, and we would deal with things in a friendly manner. We if we're asked to do something else, we provide the licensed door staff. Not really necessary, because most of the people that are there we know very well, customers of the pub, and it's hard to imagine any other problems, but we have to do what we can to make the pub viable and the events. And we're not talking about a lot of events, because although we applied for 12, the likelihood is that we'd probably do half of that. We used to do a car event, and that became, it got too big and we stopped doing it because it was likely to cause a nuisance, and so we stopped doing that. We do a classic car night. I noticed somebody in there had said that the classic cars were doing donuts in the cars, which is ridiculous. I don't imagine anybody with £150,000 E5 Jaguar, they're all Morris 1000 or whatever, doing donuts out of the car park, and we've never seen that. So that's a misrepresentation, actually. So
just before I move on to the next stage, I've just got one thing that I want to ask, because irrespective of the, complaints which was had, they were featured, the reg noise has been mentioned. Is there any mitigations that you could put in place to, mitigate that any noise? I mean, I know the where your premises is on the junction. Is there any thing you could put in place where you cite your, any stage in which you have or anything like that, so sound is funneled away from the,
If you look at the location, you know the pub. So as you go into the paddock, you enter that from the car park. Opposite is just a park, and then in the distance from there, they're houses. I mean, I think our benchmark for noise would be if you could hear it inside the pub, then it's likely people would be able to hear that from their houses. So when we did the Halloween event, we sort of made sure that inside the pub, there wasn't any excessive noise. I mean, other than that, we put up like, sort of windshields, which should probably knock some of the noise off. I think the first event, took them by surprise, and, it was sort of a nice, it was a nice event. We had so many, positive
It
comments.
was really windy that day as well, so the noise was travelled in the
Well, it
wind.
was windy. That was sort of, was it August bank holiday? wasn't it?
Yeah, and then for the Halloween one, we had the DJ facing a different direction, so the noise went more so into the trees and the hills rather than into the village.
But from, certainly on the Halloween night, from inside the pub, and I worked inside the pub that night, everybody else was putting in the field, I worked in the pub and you couldn't hear it. So that, and I think, we probably, the pub is the closest neighbour to the field. And so I think, and that's without doors open and everything. So it would be hard to imagine that people would really be affected by that unless they're really being pedantic.
fine. But it's just a point that I felt that I had to make, because I know the location of the premises there and what have you.
Yeah.
And if you were to get what you asked for today here, any measures that you could put in place would, hopefully alleviate any complaints you would have for noise, because moving forward, if you were successful and there was complaints with, though you have a license, that license could be asked by officers to be reviewed. So any measures that you could put in place would be, to your own advantage. If, the decision goes the way you think you hope it goes.
I think really, as I've said, if you're in the pub and you can't hear it, and that's the closest building to the field, that's the level that we would want the music to be at. We wouldn't want it to be more than that. And so I think that's just a little bit of control of who's doing the music, really.
I think we learned a lot as well from the 80s night. So on the 80s night, the bass was quite high, so I think that.
But I've got Mark who wants to.
Sorry, just a point of clarification. Inside the pub without its own music going on in the background.
What's that, sorry?
Inside the test, inside the pub.
Yeah.
Without its own
Music.
happening.
Oh, yeah, no, the pub was sort of,
It's like a silent pub.
well, it's not silent. There's
Yeah,
just,
with
yeah.
other than conversation.
yeah, that's
But
it.
not-
It's just a hum of conversation, and you couldn't hear the music.
Sure, it's the music that you might have in the pub. I didn't really have music.
We do. We have the sort of background music. We're not a pub that does sort of loud music. I think it's fair to say in the 6 years I've been there, we've done a New Year's sort of disco every year, and not much act. And and in this last year we did have a band in the pub. Didn't get any complaints about that at all. But when I was in the pub, you couldn't hear the music from the field, from the pub, and that's quite close.
I think you've answered the question that Martin asked, which was, is there any additional background noise or music taking part in the pub when you've got the event on outside? And the answer is no.
Just background music, yes, as you would get in any restaurant, just a bit of some background music. Yeah.
Right, Martin? Tony, have you got anything, last question you would like to ask?
No, I still don't have anything useful to say, Tony.
Okay, thank you very much. A room full of Tonys this morning, isn't it?
Yeah, we noticed that.
Right. What I'm gonna do now is,
Chairman, so can I just ask, obviously, just for the minutes, can you just make it aware? You just make it known that during our deliberation, you will take consideration of the representations made.
of course,
Yes, I realise that.
I've also alluded to that in the point I raised about, noise and monitoring and, you know, that, irrespective of what happens moving forward, if a license was issued, it can be reviewed. So
Yes.
yes, that would be,
That's
that's why I mentioned it there rather than just have it in there. If we, go down that line of, wishing to grant any license. But are you happy with, to move on from the legal point of view?
Yes, that's
And,
fine.
Rachel? Yeah, that's lovely. Well, what I'd ask you both to do now, if you wouldn't mind, is to request that you leave the room. We will, deliberate, make a decision. We will ask you back in, inform you of that decision. And, if you don't like the decision we made, you have, how many days to it? 7 days? 21 days to, appeal your decision, which will be appealed through the magistrates court. So, that is a procedure where we will go now, but if, Rachel will take you out and, we will carry on. Thank you very much for coming in your time.
you.
Something out to you now, which you will get a copy of within 7 days from our, legal officer. And, without further ado, you can still hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can hear you, Tony.
Right, I'm gonna read our decision out, notice of the decision. The hearing concerned an application for a variation to a premise license for the Virginia Ash Sherborne Road, Hemsbridge. There were 3 representations received objecting to the application. They raised objections relating to noise, nuisance and disturbance, antisocial behaviour and crime and disorder. There was no attendance at the hearing from the objectors, therefore their written representations were noted. On having considered all the evidence and all the circumstances, the licensing subcommittee is satisfied from the evidence presented that it is not appropriate to refuse the application. The licensing subcommittee resolved to grant the application to vary the premise license as applied for by the Virginia Ash Sherborne Road, Hemsbridge. All parties are reminded that there is a right of appeal against the decision of the licensing authority's decision. Such an appeal is to be made within 21 days of the date of receipt of the formal notice of determination and should be made to the South Somerset Magistrates Court. That is the end of our comments, and you will get a copy of that within 7 days from our legal officer. And wish you good luck with your ventures going forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
No problem.